Hey guys, Danny Johnson here, and today I'm going to answer a few questions that I get very commonly, and that is on the topic, what gauges should I get for my car? So first and foremost, and especially if you're supercharged or turbocharged, forced induction, but even naturally aspirated is fine, the first gauge I would always recommend is the AEM Failsafe Wideband. Okay, now this one has a custom decal on it that has SVT that I had made, and I'll put a link in the description to that video. It's just an overlay, but basically the wideband is going to measure your air-fuel ratio, and that's going to be very important because if you're running too rich, it's bad for the car. You're filling the cylinders with raw fuel, which washes out any of the oil coating from the pistons and can clog your O2 sensors and some other things. And if you're running too lean, you could potentially melt a piston or pre-ignite your fuel. Okay, so an air-fuel ratio is very important to monitor. And so the wideband, as it's called, is probably, I'd say, the most important gauge that you'd have. And I like the failsafe because it will actually shut the car down, or at least flash at you and tell you to shut down the car, depending on how you have it wired up, and save your engine from a lean condition. And I have a video that I made on that, and I'll put the link to that in the description as well that you can watch if you want. The failsafe comes with all these different face plates, which is really nice, because the traditional wideband, you're going to have a digital readout of your air-fuel ratio here, and then you've probably seen videos where it's kind of jumping around here with different colors, and what that's doing is giving you also an analog readout of what your air-fuel ratio is. And so obviously as the car fluctuates, it kind of bounces back and forth between lean and rich and all that. And so that can be kind of annoying, just having it float around. And so what I really like about this gauge is it will also allow you to read your boost pressure. Okay, and so these different face plates you can change out. You can have it read air-fuel ratio in the middle, and then also air-fuel ratio on the outer rim, which is kind of a standard thing for a wideband, but it's kind of redundant. You're getting a digital and analog readout. And so what I like about this gauge is it will also measure boost. And so you can set it up to have your wideband information on the analog outer rim, or as the digital readout, and you can change these faceplates for that. And so for example, how I have mine set up is I like a digital readout for my air-fuel ratio, and then the outer one I have set up as my boost. And you can choose what color you want it to light up at different boost levels. So if you wanted it all green, that's fine. If you wanted it all orange or all green, all red, whatever you want. And so I basically have mine as kind of orange, and then when I get into the boost range, it goes green, and anything over max boost would go red, that kind of thing. So anyway, the AEM Failsafe is my favorite all-time gauge. That's what I'd highly recommend. I'll put links in the description where you can buy them. But this will save your engine, save this car's engine even. When my alternator went out, it started flashing at me, and I knew that it was running lean, and I got out of it. So really good. The next one that I would definitely recommend is the Aeroforce interceptor gauges. And so I like these gauges for a few reasons. Number one, it's very easy to install. All you do is plug it into the OBD2 port. So you can see here just where it would plug into the OBD2. Okay, just like if you were plugging in a scan tool, you plug it in and you're done. Okay, and so what this is doing is it's reading any of the information that you would have on the car's computer. So it's going to know anything the car knows. And so you can flip through all of those different things and have it display 2 at a time. And if you want, you can even have it kind of cycle through different parameters. But with that, what I'm going to recommend is you get the dual setup. Okay, so you get 2 of these gauges. They both merge into one plug that goes into the OBD2 port, down here on the floor that I showed you up in there. And then you can have a total of 4 different parameters that are on constantly, or have it cycle through even more than that. But The ones that I like to monitor on this is voltage, so you know that the alternator is working. That's a very important one. I like to look at my charge temperature, or how hot the air is going into the engine, because then you know if your intercooler pump is working. And you also need to know how hot the air is as it's going into the engine, because the terminators pull timing on heat rather than knock, which is a good thing. If it knocks, it's too late in my opinion. Anyway, so I would get the dual setup so you could monitor voltage, charge temperature, and I even like to cycle through and see how many degrees of timing the engine's running and other temperatures. Okay, so anything the car knows on the computer that it's that the computer knows, this knows. Now you can get these as a wideband. You have to buy a certain special attachment so that it you have a wideband function, because as I said, this plugs into the OBD2 port, so it only knows what the car knows. So when you get an aftermarket wideband, or if you want an aftermarket oil temperature or pressure or anything like that, you have to buy certain attachments so that the gauge can read it. But otherwise it's going to know everything that's on the car, and this does not have the failsafe. So again, for the wideband, go with the AEM one is my advice, and then I'd get the dual setup of these. This one here is a fuel pressure gauge, and that's very important. But I had got this gauge first as like one of the first gauges I bought, that with the wideband. But if I were to do it again, I would just get two of these. It is nice to have a physical pressure readout, because the car's parameters for fuel pressure are a little different, how it calculates it. So this is an actual physical right off of the fuel rail, giving you a really good reading. And it's nice if the car were ever to start to stall out or run rough, you'd be able to at least know if you have fuel pressure or not, and that could help you diagnose some things. This also allows you to turn off check engine lights and do some other things. It has a built-in shift light at the top, which isn't too bright, isn't too useful, but it's there. But anyway, so simply put, I would buy the AEM Failsafe Wideband, and then I would buy the dual setup for the Aeroforce Interceptor. And this is what I told my brother Justin, SVT, and that's what he bought for his, and he's very happy with it. So I'm not going to go to the trouble to get rid of this gauge. I do like it, and it has a nice purpose, and I can see at least the two parameters showing up on this one, but again, I would go for the dual setup, if anything. Now, when it comes to ordering this gauge, there's something important that you're going to want to know, and that's what color it's going to light up, because different companies sell the different gauge. And so let me just show you here. And sometimes they're a little finicky. You got to hit the button to get them to kind of come on, but then they do. But as you can see, this one lights up blue. I don't know how well the color's coming out on this. But this one lights up blue, and I really like it. And a lot of people will go with the green color to match the Terminator gauges if that's what you have. But anyway, you can see how clear the readout is on this. And so there's my battery voltage, 12.1. So the car's not running, you know I'm battery only. And it should be in the 13 to 14 volt range. And so if you're driving down the road and you look over and see that it's at 12, you know your alternator's failing on you. The charge temperature, again, that's the temperature that's going into the intake manifold, you know, after it's been compressed by the supercharger. So that's really important to know as you're driving around and you see a high number on that, then you know the intercooler pump might not be working. So anyway, there's all kinds of different functions on this, and you can change them. Fuel pressure, that kind of thing. So here's fuel pressure, for example, 35, and you can see it's pretty close on the mechanical one, but it will read differently as you're driving around, which is kind of normal. But these are some of the ones that I've already selected. You go through and you tell it what you want it to be selected, and then as you scroll through, it'll show them to you, and then you can have it set up to flash so that it's constantly going through them all. But right now, I've only asked to select the charge temperature in the battery. So anyway, that's what it's going to look like. Very nice gauge. Okay, as for the wideband, and you don't really want to have, it's a heated sensor, so you really don't want to have the car on just sitting here like this too long. And but anyway, that's what it reads out. That's a very nice clear white readout, and it'll flash red and white if you go out of the parameters that you set. And as you can see, it has you know, the different colors here on the outside. But anyway, I'm not going to sit here with the gauge on too long, but just wanted to show you how nice it was. It has a very clear, bold readout, and I really like that. And so again, I'll put in the video description some other more in-depth videos that I have on these. And anyway, that's a quick answer. That's my preference on gauges. I would definitely go AEM Failsafe with the wideband, and then I would do a dual set Aeroforce interceptors. And just when you're ordering it, get the color that you want. That's going to be very important. And this overlay that says SVT I got from Lethal Performance, because I get that question a lot. A lot of companies don't sell it, so I paid like $10 and had it shipped, $10 plus shipping for it from Lethal Performance. And then otherwise you just have to have the stock faceplates with that. But anyway, if you have any questions about these, let me know. And I have install videos for all of these, other than this one, because it just plugs in to the OBD2 port. So anyway, thanks for watching, and let me know if you have any questions. Thanks, guys.